This is your preparation video for Quiz 5. Quiz 5 will cover some text functions, all of which we talked about in class, including length, left, mid, and right, which are pretty straightforward and we covered in class. Also concatenate or ampersand, whichever you prefer, and then replace and substitute. The quiz will also include 3 lookup functions: VLOOKUP, index, and match. And then it would be helpful to review the video that I posted earlier today on tables, just a review of all the different types of tables there are to clear up any kind of confusion that there may be. So let's work through the class examples in case you weren't there. The first thing we did when given a list of phone numbers was check the length of them all to make sure that they were all 12 characters. So we did the length function and checked that the min and the max were both 12 for that entire range. So we know they're all formatted about the same. And then we can come in and choose the various parts using the left 3 characters to get the area code, the middle characters beginning on the 5th and continuing for 3 characters to get the prefix, or the right 4 characters to get the line number. If we copy those formulas down, it breaks all of those phone numbers into parts. If we want to rebuild that, this time we want it to have parentheses instead of the hyphen. Then we use either concatenate or the ampersand. I'll do one with concatenate. And concatenate says, tell me what you'd like first, and if you want to put a string in, you need to put it in double quotes. And then separate that with commas from what you'd like next, which is the area code. Separate that with commas from what you'd like next, which is an in parentheses and a space in those quotes, and put a comma. And grab the prefix, a hyphen, and the line number. And so we've now recreated the phone number with parentheses instead of the previous format. Now we'll do the same thing with ampersands just to show that it works the same way. Again, any text or string that we want to include is enclosed in double quotes, but instead of separating with commas, we separate with ampersands. Either one works equally as well. I will copy the formula out here for your future reference. And then I'll copy one all the way down. So finally, we wanted to say, can we rebuild that from the original without using up all these intermediate columns, C, D, E, and F? And the way we do that is just basically take all of these formulas that we used. We had a left in there. So we could use our concatenate and begin with our open parentheses. And I'm going to paste in that left formula. And then I'm going to use our closed parentheses with space. And then I think the prefix came from a mid formula that looks something like this. And then finally the line number came from a right formula. It wanted to close that parentheses out for me, so I let it. And we get the same thing now all in one clean to look at from the outside, but ugly to look at from the inside formula. Copy that down. And we'll paste it out here just to see. Okay, moving on. Area codes 2. Here we were asked to find the area code, prefix, and line number. It's almost the same as before. I'm going to go ahead and use the mid to get the area code, so we can start on 2 and go for 3 characters. And then we'll use the mid to get the prefix as well, and we'll start on 8 and go for 3 characters. Excuse me, start on 7. And the line number, we can still use the right. Now to rebuild that from the parts as before, this is just practice. And to rebuild from the original would be similar. Now we're going to learn replace and substitute. Okay, here we're going to learn replace. And first we'll use the simplest way to replace. We're just going to replace that space that comes after the area code 504 with nothing. And so we'll say replace our old text and the 5th position, 6th position, 1 character. As someone told me in class, we can just leave it blank, or we could come in here and use empty double quotes. Either way works just as well. And then we've made it look like our example above. So we did that to practice how replace works. If we want to use that to get rid of those parentheses, first thing we want to do is replace from A17 the first character, 1 character long, with nothing. And that would get rid of the first parentheses. Now let's do another replace, but let's use the answer that we just got as our old text. So all of this is our old text. And then our start number, in this case, will be 1, 2, 3, 4. We want to replace 2 characters. And again with no, we want to replace it with a hyphen. And so now it looks like the one above it. So again, replace looks at a starting position and a number of characters, and then replaces with the new string you give it. So let's learn substitute. Similarly, if we just want to get rid of that space, then we just say substitute in A17 the space with nothing. And it gets rid of the space. If we want to make it look like this new format of a phone number, the first thing we have to do is substitute in A17 our old text, which is the open parentheses, with some new text, which is nothing. And that gets rid of the first one. To get rid of the second one in the space, we need to treat this as our text that we're working with. So let's use a substitute around that. And again, the text is all of this. The old text we want to get rid of is the closed parentheses and a space. and we want to replace it with, or substitute, a hyphen. And once we get all these the way we like them, we can just copy them all down. Now let's move on to number 3. On tab number 3, the first thing we notice is that the format of the original phone numbers is no longer consistent. So one thing we could do is go ahead and grab the length of each one to see if we can use that later. Another thing that's going to be helpful is to find the first parentheses in each one. And we know that will be helpful. So the area code, we could use the mid function and look in our text and just begin where we found the first parentheses, maybe +1, and then grab 3 characters. So what this should do is look in the middle of A14, should begin looking at C14 +1. So C14 was the 4th character, which meant the 4th character was that parentheses, and the 4th character +1 is the 5th character, the 5, which is the first of our area code. Similarly, we could do the prefix by looking in A14, beginning where we found the parentheses, but this time +6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And again, 3 characters. The line number, let's go ahead and use the right 4 characters for the line number. And now we want to rebuild from parts. We've done this before. And we could rebuild from the original. We've done that before. So I'll just zoom up the video speed and I'll let you check the solution if you have questions. Okay, now let's build it from the original. One way that we can benefit from our previous work is to look at the formulas we've used before and paste them in. So I'm going to copy each one of those, put it down here. You don't have to do it this way, but if it's helpful, then it might save you some time. Get the text out of each one. I'm using a single quote so that I can paste it in there as text. And then if I wanted to rebuild it, I could say begin with the area code. So we know this is our area code. Replace C14 with this find. Then add in our prefix. We know our prefix was this one. I think it might be easier to just type it. So that was my C14 +10. Let's check that so far. So far, so good. Ampersand, hyphen, and then finally we just wanted the right 4 characters of A14. We can delete that. If that's easier for you to do it that way, then that's an option. So we'll copy all these down and move on to the nicknames. Okay, let's do nicknames. We're going to pull out first name, nickname, and last name, and then put them back together with a concatenation. And we'll do similar things with replace and substitute. Now for first name, really we want anything before the nickname so that we can use it again. So we can't just look for spaces here. So let's look for the parentheses. First thing let's do is just type in a find the parentheses. Just remind ourselves that we can find out the number that that parenthesis shows up. Now I just want the left portion of that cell up to not 15 or not even 14, but this number minus 2. So if I said the left portion of this, the left portion of this, and how many characters do I want? I want where we found that parentheses, minus 2. And that gives me George Herman. If I copy that down, I should get the first name of all of these. Okay? So same thing here. I want the middle of that text. And this time I want to begin where we do find the parentheses. Plus 1. Because I don't want to grab the parentheses. I want everything up to it. And I want to go for as long as it takes to find the next parentheses. And so that would be find the end parentheses in A14 minus find the beginning parentheses in A14. And let's check that and see if it worked. So I don't want the string to be quite that long. I want it to be one shorter, and I get babe. If I copy that down, all of these look correct. Okay, and then the last name. We can do this two ways. We can take the right portion of A14 with a length that's equal to the length of A14 minus wherever we find the end parentheses in A14 plus about 2. Let's check that and see if that works. An equal sign up front would help. It would also help to say A14 instead of 14 when we're finding the length of that cell. Instead of plus 2, how about minus 2? Or minus 1. Some of this is just trial and error. So now we've got first name, nickname, and last name. And we can put them together similar to the phone numbers. I'm going to put a space and a single quote and in my quote. And then grab the nickname. And then a single quote and a space inside that quote. Now here replace comes in fairly handy. But I'm out of time, so we're going to get rid of number 3. And we're just going to go straight to substitute. Works much better in this case. So we'll substitute within this text, our old text. This may be exactly the same formula that we used before. I guess we will be using a single quote that we didn't use before. And that will fix the first one, and to fix the second one, we'll do the same thing, but we'll use the text. As the formula that we just typed, and this time we'll look for the end parentheses and replace it with a single quote. So let's go with that.